Hello and welcome to another episode of Sensational She-Geek live from Yancey Street. Today is Monday, May 17th, 2021, and this is episode 18A. I think I'm going to do things a little bit differently this week, this episode at least. I would normally start off with a poll list and then go into, whatever it was media-wise that I've consumed and talk about and whatever news is happening. But because the news things that I have to talk about are kind of just general lists of information, it's not really anything too in-depth that I have to talk about. I don't know, we'll see, I guess, as we go. But I will do actually the news briefly first. We'll see how brief it ends up being. And then I will go into the poll list. I know I said I was going to talk about Castlevania Season 1. I haven't finished Season 1 this weekend, actually. There was a lot of stuff that we ended up doing this weekend. And Castlevania Season 1 was a very small part of it. So I will briefly talk about what I have seen of Season 1. And then I will finish off this week's Monday episode with talking a little bit about the Bad Batch Episode 3. Since that is kind of the... it's become the Monday discussion, I suppose, since it's premiering on Disney Plus Fridays, and we're kind of between MCU things for Disney Plus. And then next is going to be Loki, though. That's going to be starting June 9th. And on Wednesdays, too. It's going to remain on Wednesdays, so that'll be a fun switch up. Maybe I will be then reviewing it on Fridays. We'll see when that gets there. I have my cat in my lap right now. She's being so cute, and I just feel like mentioning it because she is such a needy little brat this morning. Her name is Lucy. It's short for Lucifer. She's 3 years old. She is a, standard indoor short hair. She's a black cat, but she has the standard little spot on her. She's actually got 3 little white spots, one on her chest, one kind of between her front paws, and then one down there on her lower belly, the way it seems pretty much all black cats have. I'm just having a nice morning with her, loving her up, and she's been super needy. She keeps pulling my hand up to her face to get more pets. But it's nice. So, if I just kind of start giggling, it's probably because she's being cute. So anyway, we'll go ahead and start off with the little bits of news that we do have. So starting with this, I don't know how much interest people have in Indiana Jones these days. I should say in new Indiana Jones stuff these days. I was kind of under the impression it was done, and then they announced at the Disney Investor Day that Harrison Ford is actually coming back for a 5th Indiana Jones movie. So I'm a big Indiana Jones fan. I've really loved it. I've been seeing the movie since I was a kid. Obviously, Raiders of the Lost Ark is a absolute classic. I can't even count how many times I've seen that. It's kind of... it's like The Mummy. It's like one of my happy place movies. Brendan Fraser's The Mummy. I don't know if there's another Mummy. Obviously, the one we don't talk about that sucked from a few years ago. But then there was a second one, which I've seen in bits and pieces. I don't think I've ever watched it all the way through. And then there was the third one, which was The Last Crusade. Obviously great. Cheesy, of course, but they're all cheesy, so who cares? And then the fourth one that came out that was like the aliens and stuff, I could have, they had me more or less, until the aliens. Once it became aliens, they lost me. Obviously there was a lot to be, that could have been improved with that movie, especially with the script. But, up until the aliens, I really enjoyed it. I remember watching it. I think I saw it in theaters. And I remember watching it and, really digging it. And then the aliens happened. And there was just, the vibe. Ooh, I hit the microphone again. The vibe of the theater just kind of shifted. And it went from people being okay, fun action adventure movie to, what is this? If they had done the aliens differently, I probably could have been on board with it. But just the way it played out was... didn't work out for me. So anyway, now they're making a fifth Indiana Jones. I could have sworn that Harrison Ford like swore off of making any more Indiana Jones movies, but I guess I'm wrong, because they've got him signed back up for this fifth one alongside Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Mads Mikkelsen, or Michelson, whatever it is, who is fantastic. If you have not seen the show Hannibal and you can stomach violence, watch Hannibal, because he is Hannibal in that show. It is phenomenal for a lot of reasons, but it is great. The three of them, I'm not actually sure who Phoebe Waller-Bridge is. I would probably recognize her if I saw a photo. The three of them are joined by actors Boyd Holbrook and Shawnette Renee. Don't know who either of them are either, but that was a bit of news that I felt like talking about because I am an Indiana Jones fan. So then this morning, there was announced, I saw it on Twitter, it was announced all over the internet that AT&T announced they did a 43, I was going to say 4.3, that's totally not right, $43 billion deal to merge their Warner Media with Discovery. I didn't read any big articles about this because I think it's pretty obvious what they're doing here. If you are familiar with Disney Plus at all, you will know that that is a combination of, Disney things, MCU things, National Geographic, ESPN, Hulu things, and now I can't honestly remember all the different things that they're going to have starting, I'm not sure when, but in some countries I think you can already access the stars and stuff like that, which is the Disney the adult level stuff that Disney is basically, they do own it now, so, but they don't advertise it as them being on it because obviously they have that face of their brand, which is the family-friendly face, that they like to put as their, their front face. So, this is clearly AT&T/Warner, whatever you want to really call it. I guess the daddy company is AT&T. So this is AT&T trying to compete with Disney. The only things that I did read about this is basically, I don't know if you heard back when Disney took over the Fox stuff that they took over, which was the majority of Fox. There were some articles and things going around about how whoever it is that, is in charge of these things is concerned, like a trade bureau or whatever, was starting to look a little bit concerned that Disney is starting a monopoly on the entertainment industry. Obviously, you can understand why that concern is there, because the sheer volume of stuff that they have, that was my cat's tail hitting the microphone, the sheer volume of stuff that they have, as she leaves my lap, under their Disney umbrella. It's phenomenal amount of things. With AT&T having Warner, who themselves are quite the big daddy company, adding Discovery to that, they are 100% trying to compete with Disney. I did see a few articles saying that the same people who were worried about Disney being a monopoly are now kind of wondering if AT&T should start being a concern as well. That's kind of an interesting spot too, on a non-comic or anything standpoints. How do you stop these things from happening then? If they decide that, anything added to their umbrella would be a monopoly, how they would just, you get into a sticky situation. I hope you see what I'm saying there, with rights and freedom. But they're, and corporations are people, or are they not? Tax them, don't obviously tax them. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting. AT&T clearly trying to muscle up the way that Disney has. Disney's like the boss right now, and AT&T is trying to muscle up to fight them. So, a little bit of news that may or may not be interesting to you. It was interesting to me, so there we go. Coming up this week in media, this Friday on Netflix is going to be Army of the Dead. I have not watched any of the trailers for this. I don't know if I'm gonna like it. I'm sure I'll like it enough. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It's Zack Snyder's zombie movie is basically what it is. And I know, names. Drax the Destroyer. He's in it as not Drax the Destroyer, obviously. The actor who plays him is in it. I'm terrible with names right now, most times, actually. But that's coming out this Friday on Netflix. If it ends up being something I really enjoy, I will probably end up talking about it on Monday's episode, I guess that would be. So I guess if you're really into this movie and you want to hear me talk about it, there you go. Also, coming Friday, of course, is a new episode of The Bad Batch, episode 4 on Disney+, and I will talk about that next Monday, as I will be talking about Bad Batch episode 3 at the end of this episode, I suppose. I'm honestly not sure if this was this morning or not, but the Sweet Tooth trailer has dropped. I guess it was a DC comic. I'm obviously not familiar with it, but it looked pretty cool, I suppose. If they can make me give a rat's ass about this little antler kid by the end of the show or whatever it is, I think it'll have done its job, just because I don't see myself connecting with that character very much. The plot itself looks interesting, but yeah, if you're familiar with Sweet Tooth, let me know what you thought about the comic and what you thought about the trailer, because I thought it looked interesting enough, but maybe it looked like garbage from a comics reader's perspective, so who knows. Other brief announcements. I do have a TikTok now. I don't really use it very much. For some reason, I can't add anything to my bio, so it's pretty dull. But if you would like to, follow me on another media format, there's that. Like I said, I don't use it very much, so don't expect very much from it. And then last in the news, Friday's episode, 18B, will be covering the new Comic Book Day picks, which will be based around my pull list, which is what we're going to go over next. And then whatever, news and updates and things like that happen between now and then. So let's go ahead and get going into the comic book pull list. There's quite a few things that I'm going to be talking about for the pull list this week, so strap in. What we have after the pull list is going to be kind of a brief bit of my thoughts on season 4 of Castlevania, and then some discussion of the Bad Batch episode 3. However, if you are someone who is looking to jump over or through the comic book pull list stuff and get straight into the consumed media discussion, you want to go to about 56 minutes in. 56 minutes, and within a while, a few seconds or whatever, I will be finishing the comic book pull list and moving on. The comics for this week's pull list are ordered in order of issue? Oh god, where was I even going with that? Ordered of number... chronologically, I guess? Jeez, what a mess. I should edit this better. Anyway, it's all natural, isn't that good? Anyway, Wonder Girl number 1, we're gonna start there, because not only is that a number 1 comic, it is one of the ones that I am the most excited about. Scanning the list, definitely one of the top 3. Daredevil 2. We got some good stuff coming out this week. We'll get to it all in time. But this is one that is going to be so good. I can guarantee you want to buy this if you care at all about DC Comics, about Wonder Woman characters and her family, and, the tree of Wonder Woman characters, whatever you want to call that, her mythology, whatever. Or if you care about, characters of color in comics, Latina characters in comics, pretty ladies, good art, any of that, you want to pick up this Wonder Girl comic. It is completely done, I should say, it is written and drawn by Joelle Jones, who, of course, is the creator of Lady Killer. She is the creator of Yara Flor's Wonder Woman / Wonder Girl, as we're going to see her become in this series. I am just super stoked. As far as I can tell, this is an ongoing series, so it's going to be around for a good minute. I really hope it's not going to be one of these, Silk situations where I go to the comic shop and discover it's one of 5 and get really sad. Because this really is, if you're familiar with Joelle Jones's art especially, it's phenomenally satisfying. It's really, really awesome. There's so many good things, so many good adjectives about her art. And of course we have, I believe it is, not Jodie Hauser. The art is by the coloring is by Jordi Belair, who is herself a colorist and a writer. Her coloring is actually pretty stellar for comics. And she did do the Wonder Woman Joelle Jones' Yara Flor series, which was the 2 issues for Future State this January and February. So that was really, really awesome. They are making a fantastic team, and Joelle Jones was given, it seems, plenty of time to perfect what plan she had here for Yara Flor. A lot of the Infinite Frontier DC comics have already been going for 2 or 3 issues. This is the first issue of Wonder Girl because they gave her that time to perfect it, and that was an excellent sign. So I have absolutely no doubt that this is going to be completely fantastic read. I'm probably going to get both covers of it. I think there's actually 3 covers that your comic shops can order as just a standard cover. There is the A cover, which is of course by Joelle Jones. There is another cover that is a cardstock cover by, I hope I'm probably mispronouncing this, to be honest, Bilquis Ively. She is the one who is doing the Supergirl series alongside Tom King, which is going to start, I think, in June. Or it's going to start sometime soon. So great, excited for that too. And then there is another cardstock variant, unfortunately by J. Scott Campbell, who I'm not a fan of in any respect, or I should say aspect. So yeah, go ahead and check out I'm probably going to get the 2 covers that I would be, drawn to, assuming that my shops have them. If you did read, Infinite Frontier number 0, which was kind of the kickoff point for this new era of DC Comics, you will know that we already kind of got a peek at what to expect for this Yara Flor Wonder Girl series. It's going to be her origin of, turning into a superheroine. We saw her in I'm getting it all mixed up. In Future State, we saw Yara Flor as Wonder Woman sometime up there in the future, so we can assume that Wonder Girl, she's going to have a good amount of time to become Wonder Girl, and then to be Wonder Girl before we eventually, I would hope and assume, see her age up into a more mature Wonder Woman title. So we'll see if DC actually follows through with that much. But in the meantime, super, super ready to dig the heck out of this series. I will read you the solicitation, which I normally don't do so much of, but I have actually the solicitations or clips of the solicitations for most of the comics this week, because it sometimes makes it easier to give context. So here's the solicitation for Wonder Girl number 1. It says, "The story of Yara Flor starts here. Raised in the far-off land of Boise, Idaho, Yara Flor has always felt something was missing from her life. And now she is headed to Brazil to find it. Little does she know, her arrival will set off a series of events that will change the world of Wonder Woman forever. Her return has been prophesized, but with that prophecy comes an undivided attention of benevolent gods from pantheons beyond. Danger lurks around every corner. But is this young hero ready for her journey? Find out in a debut issue you cannot miss." Okay, blah. Obviously, as I've been saying that too. Really, really excited for this, obviously. If I've said that enough, the fact that they're going to be tying in many gods from many pantheons is really great. We also did get a tiny little preview of this first issue, just the art side of it. I believe it was actually uncolored as well. So it's out there on the internet if you want to get kind of a preview of what to expect from this art artistically. But in any case, this is going to be something I am super excited about for as long as it is coming out. And I gotta find more adjectives for excited, because I'm sure that's getting annoying to hear me say. Fantastic Four Life Story is another number 1 this week, coming from Mark Russell and art by Sean Izaakse. Definitely mispronounced that. I'm good at that, mispronouncing things. I'm not sure about if this is going to be as good as what it is based off of. It is kind of a spin-off of the idea of what came before. I'm doing a terrible job with this. Fantastic Four life story is kind of based off of the idea of Spider-Man life story, which was a Chip Zdarsky series from 2 years ago, I think it is. It was his kind of brainchild that he spun out for the idea for Marvel, and they said, go ahead, give it a shot. It ended up being hugely successful. The whole idea behind it is basically, you know, Peter Parker, his whole story started in the 60s, right? Or whatever year it was, the 60s. But he's pretty much, he was in high school then, but it's been 60 years, you know, since then, ish. And he's only aged up like a decade and a bit. So the life story Spider-Man series kind of imagined, what if time worked in comics the way that it worked in the real world? So there's each issue of life story was a different decade. You have the 60s, 70s, 80s, all the way up through modern comics, telling the various stories that happened in our world during those decades, that were told during those decades, telling them in this, you know, alternate reality as they happen through Peter Parker's life as he ages. I hope that makes sense. Fantastic Four life story is starting in the 60s, of course, as well. I'm going to be picking this up because I'm really curious. It's not Chip Zdarsky, but I'm really curious if they're going to be hitting the kind of theme of the life story comics as Zdarsky has laid them out on the head or not. I assume it's going to be good. If Marvel would probably not be giving Mark Russell this shot at it if they did not like what he had. So I assume it's going to be good. It's just kind of, I have some opinions about the Fantastic Four and certain characters in the Fantastic Four members that I'm curious how they're gonna do the spin on them, you know, to make them fit in this decades-long story, and as we watch them kind of age through these issues. I'm really curious what the changes are gonna be. There were certain intentions for certain characters when they were originally created that were not followed through with, so I'm very curious if Mark Russell and the artist here is going to kind of use those as inspiration for what they are putting in this life story series. So check that out if you're a fan of the Fantastic Four, or of what is even, I guess, alternate reality stories. I gotta find a better term for that. DC, I usually just say Elseworlds, which isn't always accurate, but it works. Whatever. We also have Shang-Chi #1 this week from Gene Luen Yang, who is truly a phenomenal writer, and artist Dyke Ruan. This is a series that's not going to be connected to the movie or anything like that. It does, however, spin out of the previous Shang-Chi series, which was... It wasn't something about the Ten Rings. It was, Legend of Shang-Chi. That's what it was called. And now this is another, I assume, 5-issue series or 6-issue series like the last one. Gene Luen Yang does a fantastic job writing Shang-Chi, so I'm excited to see how this all goes. And I have the solicitation for this one here as well. It says, Shang-Chi and his family are back, and this time they're colliding head-to-head with the Marvel Universe's biggest heroes. Shang-Chi has taken his place as the leader of the Five Weapons Society, which was what happened in the last series, but using an evil secret organization as a force for good won't be easy. It's kind of... okay, sorry. Interrupting myself. And it's about to get a lot harder when Shang-Chi's fellow superheroes, like the Amazing Spider-Man, start to see him as the bad guy. So it's kind of sounds like, gosh, not Cannonball, Sunspot. Whatever his name is, Mutant Sunspot, he took over AIM, and AIM continued being bad, and he was like, no, we're good now. And then all the guys under him were like, no, we're not. looks like it'll probably be like that. He's going to take over the organization and try to make them good, but they're probably still going to be doing not good stuff behind his back. And that's, I'm sure, why Spider-Man is going to end up seeing him as a bad guy, because they're probably going to be framing him as a bad guy because he's their leader. But in any case, I am definitely going to be picking the series up, and I'm sure it'll be great. Home number 2 is the first indie comic on the list so far this week. It is by Julio Anta and Anna Wieszczyk. Wieszczyk. So you figure that one out yourself. But I really loved that the first issue of this was really great. It was a lot calmer than I thought it was going to be, I guess. That's not quite right. It was, I don't know, it was just really, I really enjoyed it. It's the story of a woman and her son who have gone from, a warring part of their country in Latin America to, they're trying to get into the US. They've been stopped at the border, and held in basically detention camps. And now she has been split up from her son, and as we see, as he's been split up from his mother, he has been developing powers. We don't really know what those powers are yet, but he is aware of them. It's been happening before, because when it kind of happens again and he starts seeing the signs of it, whatever it may be, we don't really know yet. He looks at his hands and he goes, no, not again, not right now. So clearly this is something that he doesn't really want. He's not confident in. But I'm super excited that this is something potentially that will be a cool twist on the situation, helping him out, helping the kids that he's with out, because he's with a group of kids who have all been separated from their parents and their families. So, it's a straightforward series. Oh, and it's written also, if I remember reading it, the English and the Spanish are in different text bubbles, if I recall. And it's also written, the characters, I guess you'd say the back characters, who come through and interact with the mother and her son, or one or the other, the way they respond to, mostly to her, being a migrant woman trying to get into the US, it's very interesting to see how they write the people who she has to deal with through this ordeal. And I'm very excited to see how this goes. Really, obviously hoping they reunite in the end and get whatever it is that they need. She, as a little more context, she has taken Juan, her son, to the US because in their home country, I can't recall where that was, his father was killed by a gang, and they wanted to kill the boy Juan as well. So that's why they've fled their country. So it's a very thought-provoking series. It's honestly very well done. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. And I have this I guess this is the whole solicitation here. It just says, Juan is on the run. Shaken from the trauma of being separated from his mother, the sudden emergence of superhuman abilities, and an accidental jailbreak, he has two options: track down his aunt in Houston, or learn to survive on his own. So yeah, I guess he does break out. I'm not entirely sure what his powers are. They seem to be some kind of electric light thing, if I recall. But this is a really fun first issue that we've had so far, and I'm looking forward to see what happens next. The Mighty Valkyries number 2. I was shockingly surprised at how much I really loved issue 1. This is written by the duo of Jason Aaron and Torun Grönbeck. Probably not how you say your last name. It's really well done. I remember the first issue was basically split up into two sections. The first half was Jane Foster with beautiful, beautiful art by Mattia DeLuy, or Yuli. Jane Foster encountering Loki, who is running from his offspring, a wolf, giant wolf guy. I know one of these covers. I'm not sure if it's this issue or an upcoming one. I know it's Let me see. I know it's featuring Kraven the Hunter. Yes, that is this cover. Okay, so this does have Kraven the Hunter on the cover. So clearly Kraven is going to be going after this wolf thing, right? Because that's like his entire shtick. So that'll be fun. Jane probably protecting the evil wolf thing to figure out what the situation is as Kraven tries to hunt it down, and she tries to also not die. So, and on the other side of the plot, you have the new Valkyrie, whose name is Perdita. Nope, never mind, that's not right. That's a planet she's on. Whose name is something that we got revealed in the last issue that I didn't write down. She is rescuing, or she, I guess, just did start the process of rescuing this prophet, soothsayer, oracle creature who seems to be the parental figure of her former love. And I'll go ahead and read the solicitation if that helps put things together for you. The mystery of the newest Valkyrie unfolds. The biggest new addition to the Marvel Universe finally fulfills a promise years in the making. On the planet of Perdita lives an ancient power, imprisoned, leashed. Valkyrie goes to free it, and herself. And she must work quickly, for back on Midgard, Jane Foster has fallen into the sights of Kraven the Hunter. The killer stalks a beast from another plane, one whom Loki claims threatens the lives of every mortal. But there is more to this creature than meets the eye. Can the gaze of a Valkyrie reveal the secrets behind the wolf and this unearthly origin, his unearthly origin? So that, I think that pieces it together, what I was trying to say there pretty well. The new Valkyrie is freeing this oracle and also discovering things about herself as she does so. And then Jane, I was pretty much right, I didn't actually read this earlier. Jane is protecting Wolfie Boy from Kraven, but isn't quite sure why yet. Really enjoying this series. Not sure how long it's going to be, but I'm going to love every issue of it. And then we have The Many Deaths of Layla Starr number 2. This was one that I talked a lot about after the first issue because I did really enjoy it that much. It was one of these ones where a couple of pages into the first issue, you know it's something that you're going to want to stick with for a long time. It's by Ram V, who I traditionally kind of know as a DC writer. His stuff kind of is very up and down for me at DC. This was perfect for me. I love this comic, and it's only going to go into issue 2 this week. Art by Felipe Andrade. I suck at pronouncing things. But apparently, I actually found out from one of my local shops, apparently these two have done a project together in the past, a graphic novel. I don't have the name of it here in front of me because I honestly just remembered this as I'm talking. But apparently it's really good, and I'm probably going to go ahead and buy that from them, from the shop, next time I go back, or next time I have a shorter pull list, because it does look really interesting. The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, the first issue is basically Death got fired from her job of being Death, and was to retire. They sent her down to a human body, because she was fired because a basically Messiah type person who will end all death has been born, so she goes and makes sure she gets into a body that is near the baby so she can kill the baby and get her job back. However, she can't really bring herself to do that. The body she was just put in had been dead for about 12 minutes, so it was kind of janky when she first gets in. That's not why she can't kill the kid, it's because of, regular guilt and things reasons. So she ends up accidentally getting hit by a truck and dying again and waking up I think it says 9 years later. So this is now going to be 9 years later, and she has been she has been reborn, I guess. She's still in the Layla Starr body, but she has been brought back to life by the god of life. So here's the solicitation for the second issue, which will hopefully make my rambling make a little more sense. It says, the avatar of death now exists in the mortal world as 20-something Layla Starr after humanity begins the path to discovering immortality. Years pass, and Layla unexpectedly meets the boy who will change everything at one of the formative moments. Meets the boy who will change everything at one of the one of the formative moments in his life. Layla must decide what she truly wants from him and how far these revelations will push her. You got kind of mixed up there, but so I guess I'm not sure. This issue may take place over several years, but she's going to run into the boy who is the one who will bring the end of death, so the prophecy says, and have to decide if she wants to kill him or work with him or whatever. Probably not just going to kill him in this issue, because that would probably mean the end of the series. And the whole thing about humanity discovering immortality, she's the god of death, right? And she's been retired, so people aren't going to die anymore. I'm guessing is kind of what the situation is. So there's a lot of really interesting concepts at work here, plus Ram V exploring a lot of the traditional, I guess you would say, Hindu umbrella characters of their mythology. So really fun stuff. I definitely recommend this series if you're into good comics, because I'm definitely going to stick with it through to the end. Jonah and the Unpossible Monsters, number 3. This has been a remarkable series. It's kind of exceedingly simple in how it plays out, and yet that simplicity is filled with information about the story. I'll go ahead and start with the solicitation here. It says, now that once separated sisters Rainbow and Jonah have found each other again, the next step in their quest is simple: find their missing dad. In their quest, the sisters stumble upon a pocket of humanity in the broken wastes. Warriors and community leaders Gore and Nomi seem nice enough as they welcome Jonah and Rainbow to the campfire, but remembering that there's danger around every corner is rule number 1 in this post-cataclysmic world. So most likely, these Gore and Nomi characters aren't going to actually be good for Rainbow and Jonah. Issue number 2 had Rainbow finally discovering Jonah. It's been a year since she last saw her sister. We also found out that her sister is not actually her sister. She was someone who was brought home by her father after he went off on a trip. But it did not seem the kind of secret family way. It seemed in the, I just found this child on the street and decided to adopt it way. Or possibly I just found this child hatching out of an egg and decided to adopt it, because there's definitely something different with Jonah. She's probably not totally human. I definitely think she's connected to the monsters as well. I had assumed previously that their father had died, or their parents had died, but apparently not. They just got separated, and now they're going to go find their father, and probably run into a lot of unsavory characters along the way. I guess you could call this a all-ages series. I'm almost 30, and I'm digging the heck out of it, so, but it doesn't really have darker, violent elements, so I can definitely see it working out for younger audiences as well. Luna is coming out again this week. It's on issue number 4 of, I think, 5, possibly 6. This solicitation is 3 short lines. It says, Lux reveals the truth to Teresa, Teresa is poisoned, and then things get really bad. This is going to be a big issue then. I'm pretty sure that's what this is saying. Lux is the leader of this, cult that she's wound up in the desert. The last issue number 3, had a lot of Teresa discovering things, I should say truths, about what the situation here was with this cult, and with her connection to what's happening here. She spoke with I'd say ethereal being, who is chained up by the cult, and discovered that they drink his blood, I guess for immortality, and they kind of have tricked her into thinking, I guess, that this Lux guy kind of is the one who has that power. So I guess we're going to find out what he really is, or who he really is. You kind of get the idea of an angel and demon situation, or a God and Satan situation between these two characters, Lux and the ethereal chained up dude that Teresa kind of has been having visions about. And then the bit about Teresa getting poisoned, my prediction is that's going to be from one of the other girls at the camp, at the cult, because they definitely seem to have some opinions about her being there and about one another. they seem to be fairly jealous women, which I would say is a terrible cliche, except this is a desert-dwelling cult in the 1960s, so you can imagine that people are not really mentally at their best. If this is only 4 or 5, I can imagine things really, really not wrapping up, but really, really getting played out and solved, I guess, in this issue and the next. Either way, Maria Levy, who is she is the writer, artist, colorist, and I believe even letterer of the series, just killing it, absolutely knocking it out of the park. I love these creator-owned series, or these series that have a single creator doing the art and the writing. It's similar to Joelle Jones's work, mostly in general, but specifically in this week's coming Wonder Girl issue. Luna is another series like that. Maria Levy kills it. If you're not familiar with her work, she has worked in the past on Faithless with Brian Azzarello. It's not a one for kids, though, just like this. This is definitely a mature reader's comic, so check out Luna if any of that sounds interesting to you. Sonya Versal is on issue number 4 of 6. It is just an absolutely bonkers series. I really am loving it, and I kind of wish it could go on forever, but it's the sort of thing that's definitely not going to go on for too long because it is so bonkers. They can only allow so much of that. It is by Christopher Hastings with art by Pascal Qualano. The solicitation of this issue, if you're interested, or at least one of the lines of it is, Team Sonya flies toward the where did I get that from? The space-based temple, home of the gods of her universe. Things about gods, though, they are not always on your side. If you recall in the last issue, Sonya and a few of the Sonyas who had all been kind of brought to hell find their way out of hell and decide to go to the moon, which is where their god supposedly lives. So I guess we're going to see that happen, which is just bonkers. And we're going to find out who this god is, or what this god is, who I guess has been commanding all of these Sonyas to follow their promise, I guess, of not sleeping with people who didn't best them in a fight. And then it's nuts. I'm having a hard time describing it, but it's a great series. It's like the Spider-Verse but for Red Sonja, and just like I said, completely bonkers. It's great. We Only Find Them When They're Dead is back this week after its hiatus with issue number 6. It is by Al Ewing and Simone DeMeo. I have to also mention, I have this problem. I'm obviously bad pronouncing names and remembering them sometimes. I get Al Ewing and Dan Slott mixed up. So last week when I went on about last Friday when I went on about the Fantastic Four, I kept saying Ewing. It's not Al Ewing, it's Dan Slott. It says not great things that I keep mixing these two writers up for, and I both, usually when that happens, I'm bitching about them. I don't think that says very good things. But this is a series that I am completely enjoying. I remember when it started, it was around the time that the Empire event was finishing, which is an Al Ewing project, and was probably a big reason why I get him mixed up with Dan Slott so much, but in not a good way. Simone DeMeo is the artist on this project, and he just kills it, man. His art is so good. I believe it was Jamal Campbell was the one who co-created Naomi. His art style is somewhat similar to Jamal Campbell's, and I get them a little bit mixed up sometimes. This new arc it says it's taking place 50 years after the previous arc, which how the previous arc ended was basically this Captain Malik was searching for living gods. He's part of a team that scavenges bits of dead gods as they're living, which is a major industry in the universe, it seems. However, nobody's ever seen a living god. There's these giant celestial beings. So he makes it his goal to find one, and stuff happens, they do, and then she dies, and then everybody else kind of dies a little bit. And then at the very end of number 5, which was the last issue, Captain Malik kind of winds up in a I guess the realm that the gods come from is what it kind of was, where he sees 2 rows of them standing and delivering a dead sibling or cohort or whatever into his universe. Much, much bigger. They seem to get smaller as they the longer that they're dead. A lot of really cool concepts happening here, a lot of really wild out there stuff. This is kind of I'm pretty sure when issue 5 came out and I reviewed it, I got really excited about monsters. Because this is basically a big monster movie. This is basically like the reason why you would watch a Godzilla movie is kind of the reason why I'm reading this series. I like the giant monster creature things. Yes, these gods aren't really gods probably, and they're not monsters, but god damn it if it isn't cool as hell. And I do have the solicitation here, which I will read for you. It says, 50 years have passed since Captain Malik and the crew of the Vihan 2 embarked on their fateful mission, and the universe has changed in ways no one ever expected. Jason Hauer, one of the fated Vihan 2 crew, is now 71 years old and living a life on the razor's edge between the harvesters and the worshippers. But as these rival religious factions clash throughout the galaxy, Jason finds himself thrown in the center of the chaos and forced to confront his tortured past. But the only people who can help Jason have their own secret agenda, one that may bring him face to face with Captain Malik in ways beyond comprehension. Jason is the character from the first arc who was Captain Malik's, I'm not sure if secret, but lover, and also one of his crew members. So he and his sister were on the crew with Captain Malik. I don't know if we're going to see his sister here, but obviously here he is as an old man. It seems that there's harvesters and worshippers, which I would guess harvesters would be what Captain Malik and his crew were, the ones who take the dead god bodies and harvest them for their living. And the worshippers, I can imagine, are probably the ones who worship the gods, potentially through their own realm. If Captain Malik found access to the realm of the gods, or whatever it was that we saw at the very end of We Only Find Them When They're Dead, number 6. Oh, and I forgot, number 5 also had, a god pops up, an angry living god pops up and attacks the harvesting ships. So there's going to be a lot, I'm sure, of development in the past, what did they say, 50 years? Yeah, I'm sure there's been quite a lot of development, which I also think is kind of funny. I don't know what it is with with men in comics liking to write weird relationships in comics, but we knew that Malik was older than Jason when they were having their affair. Didn't know Jason was only 21 and Malik was probably in his 50s, so that's an odd choice for Al Ewing to make. What is it with male comic writers liking to write creepy male relationships? Creepy old men in relationships with younger people. It's a weird pattern I found. And it continues into modern comics, and I don't know why. Anyway, really liking We Only Find Them When They're Dead. Let's see if this new arc is as good as the first. Stillwater number 7 is coming out this week, and to be completely honest, I haven't read anything about the first 2 issues, because we couldn't find the 3rd issue at either of our local comic shops. I'm not really sure why, if it sold out really fast or what. But we really liked the first 2, so we kept picking them up, and then just a week or 2 ago, we just finally picked up the 3rd issue at a shop in another part of the world. So we have the 3rd issue finally, and I can finally catch up with it. But because I do have such a big regular reading list that I go through on a regular basis, I haven't had the time to add that to it yet. But this was really awesome. The concept was stellar. Basically the concept is there is a town in the middle of nowhere that no one dies in. If you jump off a building, you're fine. You'll get up a second later. If you're shot in the head, you'll be fine. Nobody dies. So that's the general plot, is somebody from the outside discovers that And yeah, stuff happens. Obviously, I don't know much more beyond what happens in the first 2 issues, but I really, really liked it. I didn't know it was going past issue 6. And it has solicitations through at least issue 9, so probably going to be a 10 or 12 issue series if I had to guess. And there is art by Mike Spicer, so if you're familiar with his stuff, there it is. Really liked the art. It fits really well for this kind of topic. So definitely check out Stillwater. I believe the first, I guess, volume of it is out on paperback now, because it was 6 issues, and usually that's about how long the first arc and the first volume will be. So you can check that out if you want to go ahead and pick up number 7 and aren't familiar with the last few issues. Or I guess the first arc, whatever. Daredevil number 30, we've only got Daredevil and Catwoman left to talk about. Daredevil number 30 is probably my second most excited thing for this week. It is, of course, another Chip Zdarsky project. It has art by both Mike Hawthorne and Marco Checchetto this week, they're both phenomenal. I really enjoy it when these two when they come onto the Daredevil series together specifically. Checchetto is, goddamn great on his own, but I feel like Hawthorne's works best in Daredevil when it's in contrast to Checchetto's. So this is still Elektra Daredevil. In the last issue, we saw Matt in prison, technically dying. It seems that they're kind of going to avoid talking about that side of the plot for a while to make us think that he's dead. And then it also had Elektra training this, I think, teenage girl who she kind of rescued from her mother during the King in Black event. And now she's sort of taking her under her wing as, like, her little sidekick. So, I'm excited to see that kind of happen. There was a preview. I don't have the solicitation for this because I don't think I really needed to explain it. The preview for this, was released, I think today, because it is coming out this Wednesday. But it is out there, so you can check that out if you're interested. The Hawthorne side of the art is going to be covering Typhoid Mary, who is just Mary right now, and Wilson Fisk, who I believe is mayor of the area, Hell's Kitchen. And then the Checchetto side of the art is going to be Elektra, as it usually is. Oh my gosh, just do yourself a favor and just look up a couple of pages from these comics of Checchetto doing Elektra as Daredevil, or even just any of his pages of Elektra. It's hair goals for starters, but also just delightfully gorgeous art. He does such a phenomenal. He's up there with Joel Jones as far as ink as like sensual, seductive, absolutely brilliant inking goes for their art. He's up there with Joel Jones. So it's based on the preview. It seems that Mary and Fisk are still hanging out and doing their thing, talking. And Elektra gets herself and the little girl, the teenage girl, whatever she is, into a nightclub, because she owns the building, which I totally forgot. She owns 90% of Hell's Kitchen, which makes even more sense that she's Daredevil, because now she's protecting her own ground, literally. That all happened in, I think, the last plot line before Matt. Well, yeah, it was right before Matt went to prison. There were the two evil, I think they're called the Stromwinds, the evil, aging, wealthy as shit twins, or siblings, I guess, who wanted to buy out all of Hell's Kitchen and turn it into, whatever they were going to do for it, or to it, rather. And so then Matt finds out that a last-minute buyer comes in and outbids them, and he's like, who could that be? And it's Elektra, because in a plot before that, even, she was helping Matt out with something and stole, like, millions or possibly billions of dollars from someone, from the Stromwinds, it was. And so then she uses that money to buy all of Hell's Kitchen, or rather, most of Hell's Kitchen. So now, I totally forgot, she owns all this land, so, it's really, that's another cool plot line that we're gonna be able to see hopefully played out with her as we go along, and I'm just very excited for it. I do have one question though. If you are reading the series as well, why is the little girl drawn half of Elektra's size? Is she, is she a midget? Is that the correct term? Is she a little person? Or is she really just trying to draw her as, like, a child? Because in the King in Black stuff, she looked like a teenager, but now she looks like a teenager who's been shrunk. I'm not sure if I missed something. Let me know if you know, because I do not. And finally, we have Catwoman number 31, which do not miss the stunning, mind-blowing, absolutely mind-boggling Jenny Frison variant, which features Poison Ivy and Selina's Catwoman. So pretty. I am obviously a gigantic fan of Jenny Frison and a very big fan of Poison Ivy. We're gonna get more Ivy in this issue this week, if I had to guess, based on the events of the last issue, which was basically Catwoman finding out that Ivy has been jarred and sold to a old creepy art collector to stare at, I guess. I believe what's going to happen in this issue, Catwoman is going to go and try and save her, but then Ivy or whatever it is going to die or something, but then the real Ivy is going to step out and be like, Selina, chill, I'm right here, it's all good, girl. Because if you're paying attention, in Rom V's Swamp Thing, we just saw it confirmed that he is sticking with the Ivy can duplicate herself kind of theory of things, or I guess canon of things, and this is probably not the real Ivy that has been jarred by this creepy collector guy. So Selina doesn't know any of that, though, because that was all Harley who was with Ivy when that happened. So she probably isn't aware of all that Ivy has these abilities now, and is probably going to freak out and go and try and save her or something, and then Ivy's going to have to swoop in and be like, please don't do this, I'm fine. So that wraps up the comics for the week. So with the comics out of the way, I now just have Castlevania Season 4 and The Bad Batch Episode 3 to go over. For Castlevania, I don't have that much to say about it. I honestly fell asleep, which was for other reasons, but I fell asleep watching part of it. But I really enjoyed what I was awake to watch. It is definitely following the footsteps of previous seasons in terms of violence. However, one thing I thought interesting, maybe it was just the first couple of episodes, but it seemed to very much stray away from, what is his name, Trevor and the witch girl, and stick to a lot more of the characters who were added to the series later on. So that's something to know, I guess. It's possible that that's just the first few episodes of the first episode, whatever it was that I've actually seen before I fell asleep. But it's, its animation is good. The banter between Trevor and Girly Girl is really good. I can't remember names, man. It's enjoyable for sure. I will get back to watching it and report on the rest of it probably later. But unfortunately, I don't have that much to say about Castlevania Season 4 yet. And that leaves me with The Bad Batch Episode 3. I'm kind of going to bounce around the plot a little bit because it was pretty straightforward. And there were a lot of criticisms about the main portion of the plot for this episode being too similar to that of the Frog Lady episode of The Mandalorian Season 2, which I think was actually Episode 2. And I guess I get that because it was the same sort of thing, stranded on a planet, big monster comes and causes problems, and they have to solve the problems. So it is very loosely followed that basic formula. So I guess I kind of get that, but I can't help but feel that it might have been a specific callback to that done similarly on purpose, maybe? Or is that just me giving them too much credit? I don't know. I tend to have a feeling that things are not done on accident when it comes to like the MCU and Star Wars and stuff. Like Jonathan Hickman writing is another one. So who knows? I doubt it, but it's possible. All I know is in this house, we like our big monsters in our Star Wars media. Big monsters capitalized, big B, big M. in our Star Wars media. So this episode worked out, just fine for me. I enjoyed it a lot. It was exactly what I kind of go for Star Wars media. And also in this show, I realized while watching Omega settle into the Bad Batch themselves so well, this show basically is the Star Wars 3 Men and a Baby, except it's 3, what are they, defective clones, a regular clone, and a girl kid clone. They're definitely, all the different Bad Batch members are definitely starting to take on roles for Omega, different aspects of fatherhood that they can relate to and provide for her. And that's been really cool to see happening, because they are all different characters, and this is a completely different situation for them, and they're used to being the, rough and ready, gun shooting, almost dying all the time guys, and now they have something more to worry about and care about. So I'm enjoying seeing the arcs between Omega and the Batch. There have been some criticisms that there hasn't been much character development, but I really don't agree with that. I think it's been really good, and I think they're doing a pretty good job with getting us to know the different characters. Crosshair's side of the plot has been surprisingly brutal this episode, showing him killing civilians without too much of a care. There are new troopers as well, it seems the first non-clone ones, and they have, their new kind of armor and things, so that's fun. And I watching this episode especially, and seeing how kind of dark of a path he's going on, I can't help but be super curious as to what the plan for Crosshair is from the filmmaker's point of view, what they are planning on doing with him. Obviously, it isn't just going to be that he eventually faces off with the Bad Batch and, dies, because what would that accomplish? What would the point of that be? I have to assume that he's going to find out about having been, what would you say, edited mentally, and end up either breaking free of it, trying to break free of it, killing himself, becoming a spy on the inside. I don't know, but it'll probably be a hugely dramatic reveal or something, and it'll probably make everybody say, or it'll probably make everybody who is currently saying, oh, I hate Crosshair, what a traitor, screw him, like my husband, who will listen to this and laugh. It'll probably make them kind of regret saying that, because I definitely don't think they're gonna, that Disney Star Wars is going to pull Crosshair out of the Bad Batch, make him evil, and then just be like, okay, that's it, he's just bad now, and that's the end of the story. He's gonna have an arc, somehow, and he's gonna have to prove himself either to himself, or to the Batch, or to Omega. If I had to guess one theory, it would be, I would theorize that he's going to directly save Omega, and that is going to end up with him sacrificing himself to save her somehow. So that's my theory of how the Bad Batch is going to kind of go. But other than that, I'd love to hear your theories. That's pretty much all that I have to discuss about episode 3. If you have theories and things, if you think my theories suck, let me know. And that wraps up this week's episode. So again, if you have anything to say about the episode for this Monday, you can contact me on whatever format of service you are listening to this on, which is all podcast sites except Pandora, including YouTube. So, you can do the whole like, subscribe, follow, rate, whatever it is, review, all those fun things you can do, and hopefully people will start listening to more, because there would be more, audience interest and things. So, and if you have any things that you would like me to talk about or not talk about because you think it's stupid or whatever, let me know. I can't promise that I will or won't, but, it's nice to have feedback. Anyway, that wraps up today's episode. As I said, you can find me online, aside from the places where you can view this podcast. You can find me, my website is sensationalshegeek.weebly.com. It does have the Weebly extension because I don't pay for it. You can also find me on Instagram. My username is Anna with the Comics. I only post comic stuff if you can't tell by the username. And then my Twitter is Savage She-Geek, if you are like a person who follows Twitter things. I don't do that much on Twitter. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, I did also set up a TikTok. It is just Sensational She-Geek. It's a thing. I don't really do much with it, but it's a thing. Yeah, so that wraps up this week's episode. The next episode, as I said at the beginning, is going to be this coming Friday, the 21st of May. We're already getting towards the end of the month here. And that will be covering, the comic book pick list, things that were good or noteworthy from this week's comic pull list, or other things that I picked up that weren't on my pull list. Because, like I say, even the comics that I talk about are just a fraction of what's actually out there. There's so much out there. If you hear me week to week talking about things that you don't like or care about, but you still want to find more new comics, definitely check out your local comic shops, because they will be happy to take your money in exchange for giving you something that you are definitely interested in. So I will be back, as I said, on the 21st, which is Friday, for episode 18B. If you have anything you would like me to talk about specifically then, let me know, and I will be happy to respond at that time. In the meantime, it's going to be a lovely week where I am, weather-wise. I hope it will be where you are as well. Do something for your mental health this week, like art or, reading would also be good. And remain the sweatiest of sweaties.